Investing in the stock market can be tricky, especially for new investors who aren't familiar with the process of buying or selling shares. But now new investing apps are shaking up the market by offering more options and places to put your money. Like VinoVest, which lets users invest in bottles of wine and whiskey. Masterworks gives you access to expensive works of art. Then there's Fundrise, which allows you to invest in assets like real estate. And Acre Trader lets you buy shares of farms. Little something for everyone there. We are joined now by Elizabeth Ayoola, an investing writer for NerdWallet. Thanks for joining me today, Elizabeth.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So this all sounds really exciting, a lot more exciting than your typical index fund or blue chip stock. The question is, are these smart investments?
Firstly, I must say I'm not a financial or investment advisor, and because everyone's financial situation is different, this information is not personalized. To start, investing apps can help make investing more accessible to your everyday person, and it can do that in two ways that come to mind. One is that they don't need to buy the asset outright a lot of the times, and two is they may not need in-depth financial knowledge to invest. Alternative investments, or the apps in particular, can be a smart way to diversify your portfolio depending on what your goals are. They can also help you to hedge against inflation when the stock market is down, as they often don't correlate with the market.
So can you say anything about the kinds of returns people are getting on their money and maybe how that compares to typical returns in recent years with the stock market?
Right. Well, it varies. So, for example, in the fine art market, you could see anywhere around 14%, whereas with the stock market, the average rate of return is 10%. But due to inflation, which is hitting many of us hard right now, that number can fluctuate up and down. But one thing that is true about the stock market is it tends to rebound over the years, which is why investing for the long term is so important. So it might, like you said, seem like a boring option, and it's not always glamorous, but wealth building often requires patience and consistency, which isn't always, the funnest thing.
Yeah, you mentioned diversifying the portfolio. Why would this be a good idea if you already have some of those traditional investments, whether stocks and bonds, your 401k? Why might this be a good idea to add some of these interesting niche apps in as well?
Because as we can see, if anyone has an investment portfolio or has opened their app, the stock market can be down at times, especially during high inflation. So with these diverse or alternative investments, oftentimes they work opposite of what the market is doing. So for example, if the market is down, sometimes these assets are able to withstand the market. So essentially, it can just help balance out your portfolio so that it doesn't go too deep, in the trenches.
Yeah, some have also said that these kinds of apps can sort of level the playing field for certain investments. If you don't have a person or the know-how how to invest in expensive wine or whiskey, this might be an entry point for a lot of people. Would you agree with that?
I do. So I think apps can be a good entry point for your everyday person who isn't a finance expert and doesn't have knowledge. But that said, with anything finance related, research is still essential because you don't want to invest your hard-earned money blindly. So when I say research, some ways that you can research is even just looking at the fees of the apps that you're using, because fees can chip away at your earnings. So, check what the fees are and compare it with other apps to make sure that you're getting the best deal in that sense. And also some alternative investments still require some research. So for example, with Masterworks, which is an app that allows you to invest in art, you actually have to choose the art that you invest in. So having some type of basic knowledge about art can help your money go a long way.
Yeah, you don't want to just be randomly picking things, of course. So let's say you did all your research, you figured out you're happy with one of these apps, the fees that they're offering. Let's say you're ready to cash out, you're liking your returns. Is the process similar to selling stock?
That is a good question, and it really depends on the app. So every app has a different process in terms of how you can withdraw your money. So it's best practice to ask the app provider that you are using what the process for investing your money. Research that people should be doing. The process is like when they want to take their money out.
And then finally, as a writer for NerdWallet, I'm just interested, are any of these apps catching your eye? Have you heard of anything that you think is really interesting and people might want to look into?
I am a traditional investor myself, so I do the very boring investing. I don't have any top of mind that I would use in particular because I just kind of invest and set it. So I invest mostly safely in stocks and bonds and things like that.
Sure. All right, Elizabeth Ayoola, investing writer for NerdWallet. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.